Sam Donaldson, who's been with ABC News since 1967, we should say, is on the line with us. Sam, can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Hey, Sam, great to have you. We were struck here on the set. Your former colleague, who I'm sure you remember fondly, Jeff Greenfield, was pointing out that this was not a speech filled with empty platitudes. It was a speech where he took shots in his inaugural address at his opposition. He tacked pretty firmly to the left, talking about climate change, becoming perhaps the first president, we believe, to talk about gays and lesbians. Was that the takeaway for you, the assertiveness of the speech? And if not, what was the takeaway?
Yes, indeed. I've been covering these things since 1964, and I've never heard a more political inaugural address. Unity, yes, who can disagree with that? And changing times, call for changing ways, no one can really disagree with that. And then he laid out, though, an agenda that's very ambitious and in your face to his opponents, whether it was voting obstacles, whether it was welcoming new immigrants, whether it was, although he didn't mention gun control by name, making our children of Newtown and elsewhere safe, and particularly strengthening the middle class against the privileged few, read rich, who must understand that everyone in this country has a right to enjoy its benefits. He's laid down an ambitious, aggressive, in-your-face agenda. And those people who wish him well, but understand the history of efforts in the second terms, can only say good luck.
And Sam, would you say that this speech sort of highlights that he wants to focus on his legacy?
Well, yes, maybe so, but I credit him with wanting to do it because he believes it's a good thing. I've never known a president who came to office either first or second term who says, I want to mess up the country, I want to do... No, they all believe that what they believe in is good for the country. His problem, though, is and I think you've discussed this there with other people, in breaking off so many things he wants to do. He diffuses his effort to some extent. And if he focuses on the wrong thing first, let me give you an example. In 2004, George W. Bush won 3 million more votes than John Kerry. He thought he had a mandate, so he set out to use it to privatize some small portion of Social Security for young people. And after he kept talking about it, Bill Thomas, who was then the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, came to the White House and said, sir, he's a Republican, of course, please stop talking about this because we're not going to do it. Not just the Democrats on Capitol Hill, we Republicans don't have the votes to do that. But President Bush kept on until he hit a stone wall. Then he turned to immigration reform with John McCain and Democrats, but his power had been diminished by the fact that he had lost. And he didn't get that done. So those who wish this president well, and I'm certainly not one who doesn't, can only hope that he pursues whatever he wants to first. He can't pursue them all at the same time. It just doesn't work. And that he wins that, and then goes on to the second. Because if he loses that, whatever that happens to be, there may be no second.
Sam, there was an interesting warning, though, to the Democratic base that they may have to accept partial victories in this sweeping agenda. Do you think that reflected lessons learned from the first term, or was it just sort of lip service to the idea that working with D.C. is hard?
Well, let's hope so, because I think you've raised an important point. The Republicans have given in now on the question of raising the debt ceiling next month. They've said, we'll wait 3 months till the middle of April, and maybe we'll fight then. But in the meantime, you've got to come forward with some meaningful cuts in the federal budget. Identify them. Well, if the president is as smart as his fans think he is, he'll do that. If he says, no, we'll get to Medicare later, we'll do this now, I'm telling you we have to raise the debt ceiling because it's the right thing to do, and he doesn't come forward in a bipartisan way from his standpoint, I think it's a mistake. So maybe he will, because lessons learned is just what you talked about. He's learned that Washington doesn't operate simply because he wants it to do right and be very pure and all of that. It operates in the way it operates. It's like a bull in the rodeo in the Southwest where I come from. That bull is mean. You got to ride it for 8 seconds. You're not going to change the bull. You have to learn to ride the bull. Now, if he's learned to ride Washington, good.
Well, keeping the bull in mind, I want to get your sense of something, and then I want to open it up and get the sense of the table. The president today brought up a problem that many scientists have identified as perhaps the most pressing problem facing humanity, which is climate change. The scientists are united on this. They believe that climate change is created by humans and that the science is more alarming by the day. This president brought up climate change in 2009 in his inaugural address and then proceeded to do not much at all about it. Do you reckon he can ride the bull in a direction toward progress on climate change this time around?
Well, maybe so. Maybe we've moved forward and more people have acknowledged that, as you say, the vast majority of scientists believe human effort contributes to some extent. They're divided on how many degrees in 100 years we will warm if we don't do anything. But Senator Inhofe from Oklahoma and others still maintain, at least publicly, that no, human activity has nothing to do with this. It's a natural thing that occurs every cycle for eons and eons. Will there be enough effort to override that? Again, I think it's where the president puts his clout. He has clout now, no question about it. Where does he put that clout? He can't fight every battle with the same intensity and put that clout to work with the same intensity. He's got to select them.